I was 8 the first time I heard him cry. It was summer. July, I think. The kind of summer that sat heavy on your skin, where the air clung like a wet shirt, and even the insects dragged their wings through the stillness. The house was quieter than usual. Ma was at her sister's in Ohio for the week, and my older sister had taken off with her boyfriend in a rust-bitten pickup that smelled like weed and whiskey. That left me and him. My father. He was a tall man, though I wonder if I just remember him that way because of how small I was back then. His shoulders always seemed too big for the room, his silence too loud. He had these hands, battered, veined like road maps, stained with oil even when he washed them raw. Hands that only knew how to hold things that needed fixing. The garage was his chapel. A sagging one-car box at the back of the house with rotting boards and a door that screamed like it was dying every time he opened it. He'd spend hours in there, working on the old Dodge Dart he never got around to restoring. It was a 1973, lime green, or it had been once. Now it was more rust than paint, a carcass of what might have been. But he loved it. Talked to it sometimes. Like it could understand him. That night I couldn't sleep. The power had flickered out earlier from a blown transformer, and the box fan in my room had clicked off, leaving only the noise of the crickets and the distant highway hum. I got up, padded barefoot to the kitchen for a glass of water, and that's when I heard it. A sound that didn't belong to him. At first I thought it was the cat yowling under the porch again. Or maybe the old pipes groaning through the walls. But it was coming from the garage. Low. Wet. A sound that sat in the belly. I pressed my forehead to the back door's glass, and I could see the light seeping from the cracks in the garage door like it was bleeding. I don't know why I opened it. Curiosity, I guess. Or maybe I just wasn't used to hearing him make noise that wasn't a tool slamming, or a muttered curse. I walked across the backyard, feet cold in the dewy grass, heart thumping against my ribs like it was trying to warn me. The side door was cracked open just enough for me to peek through. He was sitting on an old stool, hunched over with his elbows on his knees, like the weight of everything had finally landed. His back shook, slow at first, then harder. He didn't try to muffle it. Didn't grunt or cough to cover it. He just cried. The Dodge sat in front of him, the hood up, the engine halfway torn apart, like it had been for the last 5 years. His hands were black with grease, but they just hung limp between his knees. Beside him were the bills, late notices, pink slips, envelopes from the mortgage lender. I didn't understand all of it then, but I knew enough to see the word "final" stamped across more than one page. And I knew dreams when I saw them, too, crumpled, silent, piled like rags in the corner. He muttered something to the car. I couldn't make it out. Just a whisper, like he was confessing. Or begging. He stayed there a long time, and so did I. That night was the first time I understood my father wasn't just a father. He was a man. And he was breaking. The next morning, he didn't say anything. The light in his eyes had a dullness I didn't recognize back then. He buttered my toast, poured his own coffee, and sat across from me like nothing had happened. But I could still hear it, the sound of him crying in the garage. It stayed with me like a splinter under the skin. Years went by, and the Dodge never moved. Its wheels went flat. Ivy crawled up the back wall where the garage started to rot. He got quieter. Angrier sometimes. And I got older, filled with questions I never dared ask. We lived in the same house, but in different worlds. He passed 5 years ago. Heart gave out. Or maybe he just got tired. I cleaned out the garage after the funeral. Threw away boxes of old spark plugs, mouse-eaten seat cushions, half-finished notes on napkins, sketches of parts he couldn't afford. And I stood in front of that Dodge Dart, still on its cinder blocks, the same way I had as a boy. But now I was older than he had been the night I watched him cry. And that's when it happened. A click. Then a low, coughing rumble. The engine turned over. There was no key in the ignition. I froze. And for a second, I could feel him there. In the room with me. Not like a ghost, not like a memory. But like presence. Something holy and heartbreaking. The engine idled like it was catching its breath after a long sleep. Then it purred. And I cried, for the second time in my life, next to that car, in the same place where he had broken open. Where I had first seen him, not as a father, but as a man. The sound of that engine, the low, steady growl of something impossible, settled in my bones like a fever. I didn't move at first. Just stared through the dust-heavy air, watching the Dodge tremble in place, its hood still open, belts spinning slowly, wires sparking with life that had no business being there. I kept waiting for it to stall. To die again. But it didn't. It ran. Like it had been waiting. I stepped forward. Slowly. My hands trembled as I reached for the hood, half expecting the heat to scorch my skin. But it was warm. Not hot. Like it had just started. Like a breath drawn after years of silence. I said his name. Not Dad. Walter. I'd never called him that out loud before. It felt like stealing something sacred. But I wasn't speaking to the father who made my lunch or yelled when I tracked mud through the kitchen. I was talking to the man I found in pieces that night. The one I never really knew. Is this you? I whispered. The car hummed steady. No flicker. No smoke. Just sound and breath and a feeling rising in my chest like grief learning how to walk again. I opened the driver's side door. The smell hit me first, old leather, tobacco, a faint trace of his cologne. That cheap stuff he used to slap on after shaving. I used to hate that smell. Now it broke me. There were no keys. The ignition sat dark, untouched. And yet the dash lights glowed, gauges dancing slowly like the car was stretching after a long sleep. A faded photo was tucked into the sun visor. One I hadn't seen before. It was him. Young. Smiling in a way I couldn't remember. Beside him, my mother. Pre-worry. Pre-resignation. Pre-us. They were standing in front of the Dart, her hand on his chest, both of them looking like the world hadn't touched them yet. The photo was dated June 1975. 2 years before I was born. That's when it hit me. This car, it wasn't just a project. It was the last place his dreams had lived. Not just horsepower and chrome, but hope. Escape. A future he never reached. I sat in the driver's seat. The leather creaked beneath me, and the steering wheel felt worn smooth by his hands. I closed my eyes. The engine's rhythm matched something inside me, some strange pulse, some memory I didn't own but recognized. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for dust to fall and shadows to lean in. The garage was quiet except for that rumbling breath, like the Dart was whispering in a language I almost understood. Then the radio clicked on. I didn't touch it. My hands were in my lap. It wasn't on a station. Just static. Then, soft, beneath the fuzz, a voice. His voice. I tried, okay? God, I tried. It wasn't a recording. It wasn't some mechanical glitch. It was him. Not talking to me. Talking then. To himself. Or to the car. I don't know. Another burst of static. Then more. I was supposed to take her to California. She believed in me. I was gonna make it work. I just ran out of road. My lungs locked. This wasn't happening. But it was. This car, it was holding something. Not a ghost. Not a haunting. Impression. Memories pressed into metal. Grief stored in gears. Like his pain had seeped into the fabric of the machine, and refused to die when he did. The engine cut off. Sudden. Final. And the silence that followed was louder than the growl had ever been. I got out. Shut the door gently like I didn't want to wake it again. And I stood there, the heat of the engine wrapping around me like breath from a body that shouldn't be alive. A thought took hold, one that wouldn't let go. If the car could speak his pain, maybe it could show me more. Maybe it was his way back. Not for him. For me. That night I dreamed of roads. Long, endless highways stretching across deserts and mountains. And the Dart was there, gleaming like new, cutting through the dark like it belonged to the stars. He was driving. Not older. Not broken. Young. Laughing. Alive. He looked over, and I was in the passenger seat. He didn't say anything. Just smiled. Like maybe, somehow, he knew I was finally listening. The morning after the dream, I woke up with the taste of dust and distance in my mouth. I didn't remember getting into bed. Just remembered standing there in the garage, staring at the Dart after the engine died again. Then the road. His smile. That impossible silence. The dream should have felt like grief playing tricks. But it didn't. It felt like direction. I didn't tell anyone. There wasn't anyone left to tell, really. My sister stopped speaking to me after the will was read, something about a shed full of junk not being worth the plane ride. And Mom? She was 3 years gone. Alzheimer's took her memories before her body, and by the end she didn't even know who Walter was. But I knew. And now, it seemed, so did the car. I ate toast in silence, and looked out the window toward the garage, half expecting to see the hood open again. It wasn't. The door was shut. Quiet. Like nothing had happened. But something had. I went back out just after noon, sunlight slanting through the thinning autumn trees. The leaves whispered as I passed. The garage door gave its usual groan, only this time, it felt more like a greeting. The Dart was waiting. Still. Quiet. But not dead. There was a strange tension in the air, like standing on the edge of something vast. I opened the driver's side door again. Same smell. Same memory-stitched air. But this time, I noticed the glove box. It was slightly ajar. I don't know how I missed it before. I could have sworn it was shut. Locked even. But now it hung open just enough to beckon. Inside was a folded map. Yellowed. Creased from years of being unfolded and refolded by the same tired hands. I pulled it out, and it was like unfolding a secret. It wasn't just a road map. It was his map. Routes were circled in red ink, faint notes scribbled in the margins. Motel with pool, best pie, talk to Manny about job, stay on 66, views. There were hearts drawn next to towns I'd never heard him talk about. And one town, Elko, Nevada, was underlined 3 times. In the top corner was a date. July 3, 1980. The summer before I was born. I sat back in the driver's seat, holding that map like it might catch fire. The car was silent. But something was watching. Waiting. I reached up, touched the photo again. They had wanted this. California. Dreams. Movement. The Dart was supposed to carry them to their new life. But something happened. Something broke before the wheels ever left the driveway. And he never let go of it. I stared at the ignition. Still no key. But I knew. I reached forward anyway. And as soon as my fingers brushed the steering column, the engine roared to life. Not like before. Not a low hum. It roared. The garage shook with it. Dust leapt from the rafters. The air buzzed like power lines. The radio snapped on, and this time, there was no static. Just a song. Running on Empty. Jackson Browne. I hadn't heard that song in years. It was on one of Dad's old tapes, one I used to rewind again and again just to hear him sing along, soft, out of tune, but with feeling. Like the words meant more to him than they ever could to me. Until now. I looked at the glove box again. Another sound, a click. A small, quiet release. A second compartment opened inside it. There was a Polaroid. Not of my mother. Of me. 3 years old, clutching a tiny plastic steering wheel, sitting in the Dart's front seat while he knelt outside, holding me steady. I'd never seen the photo before. I don't remember the moment. But I remember the feeling. Safe. Seen. Loved. Beneath the photo, a single index card. His handwriting. All caps. If you find this, it means you're ready. I broke. Right there, in the garage. Bent over the steering wheel, sobbing like the boy I used to be. the one who watched his father weep and never said a word. And through my tears I felt the rumble under me. The dart didn't shake like it used to. It purred. Alive. Calling. Not to stay. But to go. That night I packed a bag. Nothing big. Just enough. I traced the map's route with my finger, from this little dying town in Illinois all the way west, through Missouri, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, and finally California. I didn't know what I was chasing. Him? Myself? Some old ghost of a future that never arrived? Didn't matter. I was going. And the dart would take me.